John Cage once said, "I have nothing to say, and I'm saying it." I burst out laughing when I first read this. Just imagine Ludwig van Beethoven saying, "I have nothing to say," in which case he might have put down his pen and paper and taken a walk in the woods until he did have something to say. And what about Cage's most well-known work, 4 minutes, 33 seconds, in which a pianist walks onto the stage, sits down at the piano, and closes the keyboard lid. And then after opening and closing the lid at various intervals, the pianist then stands up and takes a bow. Cage was pulling our collective leg, right? Wrong. He was utterly serious. John Cage simply thought about things differently than most people. In the case of 4 minutes, 33 seconds, it was not silence or the absence of sound that Cage was concerned with, but the ambient sounds heard by the audience. For example, the rustling of leaves, a rainstorm, and the laughter of perplexed people heard during the work's first performance. Cage began writing his quartet in 4 parts in Paris. Beforehand, he told his parents that he wanted to compose a work which would praise silence without actually using it. Perhaps this was a foreshadowing of 4 minutes, 33 seconds. Once underway with the quartet, his fascination with this new way of composing prompted a letter in which he wrote, "This piece is like the opening of another door. The possibilities implied are unlimited." The string quartet in 4 parts is based partially on the Indian view of the seasons, in which each of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, are each associated with a particular force: creation, preservation, destruction, and quiescence. Cage used a new technique of dealing with fixed sonorities or chords in this quartet that he called gamuts, which released harmony from any purpose or progression in supporting the melody. He said that the inclusion of traditional harmonies was a matter of taste, from which a conscious control was absent. We can only wonder what the old masters would have thought of this concept. Cage's stated aim was to sober and quiet the mind, thus rendering it susceptible to divine influences, rather than music to express feelings and ideas. I find that the quartet in 4 parts creates a remarkable atmosphere that does indeed sober and quiet the mind. It seems to drift through time peacefully, if randomly, the notes and harmonies endlessly connecting with one another, sometimes pleasantly, sometimes clashing, in the same way that the sounds of civilization and nature also do at random. After Cage had studied with Arnold Schoenberg for 2 years, Schoenberg said to him, "In order to write music, you have to have a feel for harmony." Cage explained to him that he had no feeling for harmony. Schoenberg then told him that he would always encounter an obstacle, that it would be as though he came to a wall through which he could not pass. In that case, Cage told Schoenberg, "I will devote my life to beating my head against the wall." Years later, Schoenberg referred to his one-time student Cage despairingly as an inventor rather than a composer. Cage simply loved this and often called himself just that, an inventor. As time went on, Cage's works often became theater as much as music. He composed for dance, wrote poetry, and the manuscripts of his music were sometimes exhibited as works of art. So what was John Cage actually? Was he a composer, an artist, an actor, a poet, an inventor, or merely someone playfully pulling our leg? Take your pick.
I pick mathematician. I know that wasn't on your list, Arnold, but it so happens that an interesting mathematical concept called square root form is at work in this unusual composition. As Arnold mentioned, Cage uses the gamut technique with its predetermined assortment of melodic notes and chords that are sounded one at a time without a sense of progression in the context of a 4-movement work, where there are 22 episodes that are each 22 measures in length. As you can already surmise, there's nothing traditional about this quartet. According to Cage, the 4 movements, quietly flowing, slowly rocking, nearly stationary, and quadlibet, exhibit a rhythmic structure in which the following numbers play a role: 2.5, 1.5, 2, 3, 6, 5, 0.5, and 1.5. The sum total of these numbers is 22. For the first movement structure, Cage added 2.5 plus 1.5 for a total of 4. He then multiplied this number by 22 for a product of 88. So the first movement has 4 episodes that are each 22 measures in length for a total of 88 measures. He follows this procedure for the second movement by adding the next 2 numbers in this sequence. 2 plus 3 for a sum of 5. 5 times 22 yields 110 measures of length for this movement. That is 5 episodes that are 22 measures each. He continues this process for movements 3 and 4 by adding the next 2 numbers in the sequence and multiplying the sum by 22. The end result of the work is 22 episodes that are each 22 measures in length, hence the term square root form. Now you might be considering how these numbers affect the expression of this work, which captures the essence of changing seasons: summer in Paris, fall in America, winter, and finally spring. Well, there is the distinct feeling that the music is slowing down as the movements proceed from quietly flowing to slowly rocking and to nearly stationary. Even though the tempo remains consistently slow at half note equals 54 on the metronome, Cage moves to longer and longer rhythmic values from one movement to the next, and the dynamics remain relatively quiet. In addition, the square root form, which displays an increasing number of episodes in the movements 1 to 3, that is 4, 5, and 11 episodes respectively, causes the increasingly static music to last progressively longer and longer. All of this changes in the final movement, the quadlibet, which is the shortest of the 4. Here the tempo more than quadruples. The rhythmic values become shorter, more dance-like, and the dynamics suddenly turn forte. The resulting expression has often been described as emotionless. Cage asks the performers to underscore this quality in the music by playing with no vibrato and no weight on the bow. Let's listen to the canonic imitation in the third movement, Nearly Stationary, where the music achieves its greatest stillness.